Middle Eastern cuisine is bold, vibrant, and timeless. But how do these iconic dishes stack up when it comes to your health? From hummus, falafel, shawarma, and so much more, some of these foods are packed with nutrients that are bound to fuel your body and your mind, while others might just be indulgent calorie bombs in disguise. Which of these foods will rise to the top and which ones will fall flat? This is Wellness Without Borders, Middle Eastern edition. In the world of nutrition, it is a well-known fact that the Mediterranean diet is among one of the healthiest diets on the planet. And in my humble and definitely not biased opinion, I believe that one of the cultures that does the Mediterranean diet the best is Middle Eastern and Arab culture. Culture is such a huge part of our culinary choices and experience. And when you live and practice in a multicultural melting pot like Toronto, you see patients from all walks of life. Being of Syrian Lebanese descent myself, a lot of these foods on this list today are very close to my heart. And I am so excited to jump in and share them with you all today. But first, as always, let's talk about how the ranking system is gonna work today. Starting off strong with S tier. These are foods that you can include in your diet every single day as they are jam-packed with nutritional value. Up next, we're looking at A tier, which are still very obviously healthy foods, but make sure to keep them in a rotation in your diet. B tier has some nutritional value, but can definitely be abused if consumed in high quantities. Moving on to C tier. Here is where we walk the line of healthy versus unhealthy. There's always space for fun foods in our diet, but we do want to make sure that we're not over-consuming foods that are going to land themselves on the C tier. And finally, the D tier. There's no question that the foods on the D tier are inherently unhealthy. And the truth is, if we are simply looking at the nutritional value, you'd probably do best not having them at all. But because we are only including the cultural classics, I have a hard time believing that these are going to be completely eliminated from your diet, especially if you are of Middle Eastern or Arab descent. All right, friends, you're all caught up. Yalla habibi, let's get into the food. Starting off strong with one of the freshest and most delicious Middle Eastern dishes of all time. I'm talking about tabbouleh. In my opinion, there are so few things that hit the spot like a beautiful little bowl of tabbouleh. So fresh, so delicious, and so nutritionally dense. Without a doubt in my mind, something like tabbouleh is going to land itself right up at the top of the list on the S tier. And if tabbouleh is not your jam, then I've got just the alternative for you. I'm talking about the king of all salads in the Middle East. That is fattoush. There's something about fattoush that is addictive. I can't even figure it out. Nobody just has one serving of fattoush. You know, at the end of the lunch or the dinner when everyone's packing up the leftovers, there's never fattoush leftovers. That is always done. Now, there is one thing to note about fattoush, and that is one of its ingredients is fried pita chips. Don't think I didn't forget about you, fried pita chips. Now, in small amounts, this can really add to the flavor and texture of the salad, but in my opinion, I would choose to limit the amount of fried pita chips that you put into your fattoush just to maintain its nutritional value and reduce the inflammatory effects of adding a fried ingredient to a beautiful salad. So delicious, so nutritious, it earns itself a spot next to tabbouleh on the S tier. And if you're offended that I'm considering taking out the fried pita chips from fattoush, then you're not gonna like this video and I'm gonna get a ton of heat. But bring on the heat because today, I'm not holding back. Moving on to a very common breakfast or daytime snack for Middle Eastern folks around the world, I'm talking about manouche. Manouche is like a baked flatbread with various set of toppings. Kind of like an Arabic pizza. Now listen, you have to look at a manouche for really what it is. It's just a piece of seasoned bread. A delicious piece of seasoned bread, but it's just a piece of seasoned bread. Unfortunately, I think manouche is going to land itself in the C tier. Ooh, I'm gonna get some hate for this, boy. Now, while we're on the topic of breakfast-style foods, up next, I've got shakshuka. Now, shakshuka is technically not a Middle Eastern dish. It's actually a Tunisian dish originally, and Tunisia is in North Africa. Now, this is a beautiful and well-balanced breakfast. You're getting awesome quality protein from the eggs and tons of nutritional value from the tomatoes and the vegetables within the broth. Throw in a piece of sourdough bread and oh boy, now we've got a breakfast, folks. Now, fair warning, if you typically struggle with heartburn or acid reflux, something like a shakshuka might actually make that worse due to its acidity from all of the tomatoes in the base. But if that's not a concern for you, then go strong, my friend. Shakshuka, you're finding itself in the A tier today. Up next is Middle Eastern comfort food at its finest. I'm talking about lentil soup. As the cold winter months roll in, warm and healthy dishes like traditional lentil soup tend to become a little bit more popular. And why wouldn't it? Because lentil soup really packs a strong nutritional punch. Just 1 cup of lentil soup can contain up to about 12 grams of plant-based protein and 8 grams of fiber. It's warm, it's hearty, it's nutritionally dense. Lentil soup, I have no other place to put you than all the way up on the S tier. You might enjoy your lentil soup as a main dish or maybe even as a smaller portion for an appetizer. And so while we're on the topic of appetizers, it's very common practice in Middle Eastern culture to enjoy a broad selection of appetizers that they refer to as meze. 2 meze classics are kibbeh and falafel. Kibbeh kind of being the meat version of falafel, or falafel being the vegetarian version of kibbeh, however you want to organize it. Kibbeh is generally ground beef stuffed into a flour casing and fried, whereas falafel is ground and seasoned chickpeas in a batter and fried as well. Now, they both contain protein and they're definitely both delicious, but both of these options drop a lot of points on the nutritional scale as soon as you deep fry them. So if we're just looking at classic fried kibbeh and fried falafel, I have no choice. I'm gonna have to put them on the C tier. Another meze classic is stuffed grape leaves. Depending on the Middle Eastern country, stuffed grape leaves might be referred to as wara eneb, yabra, or dolma. Typically, it's a mixture of ground meat and rice wrapped in a steamed grape leaf. These are absolutely delicious and addictive in my opinion. In fact, they're so good that I think that one of the problems with stuffed grape leaves is that you just never stop eating them. And that's why it's so important to always consider the notion of portion control when you're talking about breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But if we're strictly looking at the nutritional value of stuffed grape leaves, I'm gonna happily put it in the B tier. Up next, we've got the stars of the dinner plate. That's right, we're jumping into all things protein. Starting off strong with 2 of my absolute favorites, shish kebab and shish taouk. Shish kebab, of course, being grilled skewered beef tenderloin, and shish taouk being skewered grilled chicken breast. When it comes to high quality protein options in Middle Eastern cuisine, there are very few things that top the list like shish taouk and shish kebab. And so because of that, I have no reason to not put these 2 high quality protein options right at the top of the list in the S tier. Man, this list is coming together, and not gonna lie, I'm getting pretty hungry just looking at it. Now, not all protein options are created equally, and this is important to keep in mind when we look at our next few protein options, like kefta and shawarma. Kefta is essentially ground meat placed onto a skewer and grilled, just like the shish taouk and the shish kebab. But in general, ground meat tends to be of lower quality than some of the cuts that you get when you're making shish kebab. And that's because of the oil and fat density that you tend to find in ground beef compared to the lean nature of tenderloin that shish kebab is generally made from. And so we're gonna put kefta in the B tier today. And if you thought that kefta was oily and fatty, then shawarma is on an entirely different level. I mean, you've seen those delicious spits of meat just sweating and dripping oil. You don't even have to hear it from me. Go to your corner shawarma shop and take a look for yourself. High protein, of course, but loaded with saturated fat. And so today it's gonna land itself in the C tier. Now, if there's one thing that Middle Eastern folks love, it's rice. And so first, let's start off by talking about a Jordanian favorite, mensef. If you have a Jordanian friend, no doubt they have spoken about mensef like it is God's gift to this planet. In case you're unfamiliar, mensef is a rice-based dish that uses a protein like lamb or sometimes beef cooked in hot yogurt. But all in all, when you look at the nutritional value of a dish like meze, it's actually pretty good. There's tons of protein, not only from the meat, but also from the cooked yogurt. And it tends to be sprinkled with a variety of nuts like almonds or pine nuts. And so because of that, meze, you're gonna find yourself in the B tier. Another super common rice-based favorite is matlube. Matlube is actually a really cool one because it's one of the most versatile rice-based dishes in Middle Eastern cuisine, in my opinion. There's chicken matlube, there's lamb matlube, there's fish matlube, there's vegetarian matlube. In a lot of ways, I like to think of matlube as kind of the Arabic version to a South Asian biryani, just because of the different ways that you can prepare it. So just like meze, matlube is gonna find itself on the B tier. Now, if you're hankering for a healthier rice-based dish, I've got just the one for you. I'm talking about fasulia and riz. Fasulia in Arabic essentially just translates to beans, and different iterations of fasulia and rice might use white beans or red kidney beans, usually cooked in a tomato sauce. And more often than not, there will be little beef cubes in the stew as well because, well, Arabs can't not add meat to everything. That makes fasulia and rice a quick and healthy option for a weekday lunch or dinner. And because of that, fasulia, you're landing yourself in the A tier. Up next, we've got the dip of the gods. I'm talking about hummus. Whoever discovered that when you combine chickpeas, tahine, lemon juice, and garlic that you get this beautiful creamy paste? Oh my God, give this person a Nobel Prize. They say that humans are about 70% water, but I am convinced that I am about 68% hummus. I could literally eat hummus every single day with a spoon. No crackers, no veggies, nothing. I would just raw dog hummus every day if I had the chance. Hummus is high in protein and fiber per serving when compared to many other dips. And that's because chickpeas are really nutritionally dense. Throw in some healthy fat from the tahine, lemon juice, salt, garlic. Oh my God, hummus is so good. I'm putting you all the way at the top. S tier for you. Here we go. Now, when we talk about hummus, there's a challenger in the ring that's always trying to box its way to the top, and that is baba ganoush. Baba ganoush is also a tahini-based dip, but instead of chickpeas, we use roasted eggplant. In a lot of ways, baba ganoush is also super healthy for you. You're getting all the micronutrients from the eggplant as well as healthy fats from the tahini, but it lacks the protein that hummus gets from the chickpeas. And so because of that, baba ganoush today, you're gonna land yourself in the A tier. Personally, I'm picking hummus over baba ganoush any day, but let me know in the comments which one you prefer. If you've watched this far, you've probably noticed that there's nothing in the D tier yet. And that's because I honestly couldn't think of any Middle Eastern foods that deserved to be consumed so infrequently or not at all. That is until I remembered the Middle Eastern desserts. Starting off with one of the richest and most decadent Middle Eastern desserts, kenefe. Kenefe is a cheese-based dessert coated in string pastry and drenched in syrup. Now, consumed in small and reasonable amounts, something like kenefe can really be enjoyed to its fullest. But probably not the time to have kenefe is for breakfast the next morning after a party. You know who I'm talking to. When it comes to dessert in general, the best time to have dessert is immediately after a meal. This is because at this point you would have just consumed a whole bunch of protein and fiber if you had a balanced meal. And this means that you're giving your body the best chance to bounce back from the introduction of a ton of sugar into the system. I'm sorry, kenefe lovers, I have no choice. Kenefe is going to find itself at the bottom of the list in the D tier. In fact, the D tier is where the rest of these Arabic desserts are going to find themselves as well. Things like mamoul, which is stuffed shortbread cookies with either dates, pistachios, or walnuts, batlewa or baklava, depending on how you pronounce it, and sesame-based desserts like halewe, all of which are super high in sugar and really don't provide all that much nutritional value. But these are not foods for the gut, these are not foods for the mind, these are not foods for the liver, the pancreas, the stomach, or the heart. These are foods for the soul. And so even though they're landing on D tier today, they're S tier in my heart. And there you have it. Here is my tier list for some of the most popular dishes across Middle Eastern and Arab cuisine. Do you agree with this list? Did I leave anything out? Let me know down in in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.